It's an interesting time for business. Tariff and trade policies are dynamic, supply chains are squeezed, and cash flow, it's tighter than ever. If your business can't adapt in real time, you are in a little bit of hurt. So how do you get full visibility and adapt in real time? Over 42,000 businesses trust NetSuite by Oracle, your AI-powered business management suite. It brings accounting, financial management, inventory, and HR all under one roof. NetSuite is the #1 cloud ERP for a reason. It's your single source of truth, giving you the data and control you need to move quickly. Real-time forecasting helps you move into the future with confidence, and with AI built in, you can automate the busy work and focus on strategy. NetSuite helps you see what's stuck, what it's costing you, and how to pivot fast. If I were running a business with a lot of moving parts, I'd use NetSuite for full control over everything. Tame the chaos with NetSuite. If your revenues are at least in the 7 figures, download the free ebook, Navigating Global Trade, 3 Insights for Leaders at netsuite.com/SPI. That's netsuite.com/SPI. Hey, I get it. You've worked really hard to build up your business, and it's doing great. So great that you need help now. The most important thing for your business is to hire the right people to support it. So how can you find amazing candidates quickly? Easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps you stand out and hire fast. And with Sponsored Jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. And it makes a huge difference. According to Indeed data, Sponsored Jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applicants than non-sponsored jobs. And it's one of the largest databases of job seekers, too, giving business owners access to a wide range of candidates. And one of the things I love most about Indeed is the job alerts feature. I get notified when new candidates apply. There's no need to wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/smartpassive. Just go to Indeed.com/smartpassive right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/smartpassive. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring Indeed is all you need. The perfect product launch. It's the goal for every brand marketer. High heat, fast sellout, and fans posting recipes like trophies. What do Sydney Sweeney's soap drop, Taylor Swift's tickets, and your next launch have in common? Well, they're not bought, they're bragged about. Fanfare turns your drop into a moment. Fanfare cues real fans, blocks bots, and builds launch experiences worth screenshotting. Want hype without the heartbreak? Get Fanfare's 5-step hype drop playbook with our proven success formula and make your next launch unforgettable at fanfare.io/playbook. Again, fanfare.io/playbook. This is the Smart Passive Income Podcast with Pat Flynn, session number 157. Nope, that's not the one. Come on. Woohoo!
Welcome to the Smart Passive Income Podcast, where it's all about working hard now so you can sit back and reap the benefits later. And now your host. He once got a Tic Tac stuck up his nose. Pat Flynn.
While DIY website tools are everywhere, most fall short on design and performance. Hit publish. Framer ships your site worldwide in seconds. No code, no compromises. Framer is a powerful, user-friendly platform that delivers developer-level results without writing a single line of code. Make your designs move and convert with Framer. Framer brings your site to life with powerful animations, dynamic content handling, and a design-first approach that helps your site stand out. Framer is the design-first, no-code website builder that lets anyone ship a production-ready site in minutes. Browse hundreds of pixel-perfect templates or even design something of your own on a totally blank canvas. Add bold animations like appear effects, text effects, scroll and looping animations, and much more in seconds. And it's free to start. The built-in AI handles the heavy lifting of generating starter layouts and can even translate your entire site to any language. On the back end, you'll get responsive breakpoints, built-in hosting, a flexible CMS, and privacy-friendly analytics. Ready to build a site that looks hand-coded without hiring a developer? Launch your site for free at Framer.com and use code SPI to get your first month of pro on the house. That's Framer.com, promo code SPI. Framer.com, promo code SPI. Rules and restrictions may apply. Do you know the secret to businesses that are scaling faster than ever? They're using Upwork to tap into a diverse pool of skilled freelancers across various industries. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more. Experts who are ready to help you take your business to the next level. I've personally used Upwork myself and can vouch for it. Posting a job on Upwork is easy. With no cost to join, you can register, browse freelancer profiles, get help drafting a job post, or even book a consultation. From there, you connect with freelancers that get you and can easily hire them to take your business to the next level. Upwork makes the entire process easier, simpler, and more affordable with industry-low fees. Post a job today and hire tomorrow with Upwork. Visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That is Upwork.com to post your job for free and connect with top talent ready to help you grow your business. That's Upwork.com. Again, Upwork.com. What's up, everybody? Thank you so much for joining me once again for another episode of the Smart Passive Income Podcast. This is episode 156, and I couldn't be more excited because today's guest is somebody who I first saw on a TED Talk. And this was one of those TED Talks where when you start watching, you can't stop. And it was just such a cool, inspiring story and something I related to because this person was going through a time in his life when he just completely feared being rejected, just with anything, really. And I know this is something that a lot of us can relate to. It's definitely something that I've lived with for a very long time, the fear of being rejected and that stopping you potentially from doing things that could be awesome and fun and life-changing because you're just afraid of people saying no. So to help himself get over this fear, he put himself in situations called 100 Days of Rejection. So for 100 days, he put himself in situations where he wanted to be rejected, to just help himself get over the fear. And a lot of cool, amazing things have come out of that. He did a number of things, and he actually kept track of them on his site, which is now you can find at fearbuster.com. He has this whole list of 100 Days of Rejection, from pumping gas for strangers or putting sunglasses on random people to racing random people, dry cleaning his tire, getting his hair trimmed at PetSmart, all these random things that, he purposefully put himself in those situations to get rejected. This is similar to when Noah Kagan came on in an episode a long time ago, and he challenged a lot of people to go to Starbucks and ask for a discount. That training is really helpful, especially for entrepreneurs who have to put themselves in situations where they might be rejected quite often. And sometimes if you completely fear rejection, it's going to stop you from doing the things you need to do to move forward with your business and just experience amazing things in life. And this is why I actually look for this fear now as a sign. Similar to what Stephen Pressfield says in The War of Art, I look for fear and that resistance as a sign that is actually something I should be doing. Now, of course, our guest today, his name is Jia Jiang. He takes us to a whole new level and just completely puts himself in odd situations. And the interesting thing is a lot of people actually said yes to the things he asked for. So he's going to talk about that. Also, his new book called Rejection Proof: How I Beat Fear and Became Invincible Through 100 Days of Rejection. So without further ado, here's Jia Jiang from fearbuster.com. Here he is. What's up, SPI? I'm so happy to welcome Jia Jiang to the SPI podcast today. What's up, Jia? Thank you so much for coming on today.
Hey, I'm glad to be here, Pat.
So I have to say, just the way that we've been able to connect with each other is a great story because I've seen you before on a TED Talk, and it was one of the most inspiring TED Talks I've ever seen. And a lot of you listening to this may have seen this TED Talk already. It's about rejection. And Jia put himself to the ultimate test and tried to be rejected as many times as he could. And I'll have him talk about that story. But it's interesting because I mentioned that, I don't even remember how long ago, but Jia reached out back to me and he said, Pat, I listened to your show and I heard you talk about me. And then this is sort of how we gotten connected. And then I wanted to have him come on the show and talk about this idea of fear that we have and how okay it is to just be rejected. And this is something that I need help with all the time too. So Jia, just thank you for what you do. Can you talk a little bit about your story and how you got to where you're at now?
Yeah, of course. And just before that, I want to talk about the story. It's a friend of mine that when I was running my startup, and then just when all the craziness was going on with me with my TED Talk and my 100 Days of Rejection journey. And one day he just called me and he said, hey, do you know Pat Flynn? I'm like, no, I don't. That was about almost 2 years ago. And he's like, he talked about you. His podcast is super cool. You should listen to it. Then I listened to it. I'm like, you know what? I love this guy. I love this podcast. So I'm just going to start listening. So it's crazy. A year and a half later, we're talking.
Yeah. And you told me just before we started recording that now you're sort of a regular listener to the show and also Ask Pat too.
Yeah, I do. I think it's super informative and helpful. And I love the way you're doing interviews. You got this radio sound, man.
What? No. I think it's the mic. The mic makes me sound better than I do in real life. I think that's what it is.
Yeah, I think when I'm going on my book tour, I need to meet you in San Diego and listen to how you really sound.
Oh, I'd love to. Yeah, we'll talk about your book in a second. But why don't you go back to sort of your origin story and sort of what you talked about in that TED Talk video?
Sure. So the whole story is, it started really long time ago when I was a teenager. I grew up in Beijing, China. All I wanted was to be an entrepreneur. There are other people who wanted to be many things. I listened to Bill Gates coming to Beijing to give a talk, and I was fascinated with his story. He changed the world, and I thought, maybe I can change the world too. So that's my beginning. I wanted to be an entrepreneur, and I came to America along at 16 years old. Doing 1 year of being an exchange student, and then I went to college, and so that's how I came to this country. And just over the years, I've climbed the corporate ladder, and got an MBA and everything, and got my American dream with house and dog and a beautiful wife and just everything. But just one thing that was missing, it was that childhood dream I had that was inspired by Bill Gates. I know we all grow up wanting to do something, but a lot of us change course. Mm-hmm. But I was never that comfortable with the idea of not following through on that dream to be an entrepreneur. So, after a while, I just had to quit. So I quit my job, really cold, and
just quit.
Just quit.
Wow.
Well, I had this chat with my wife. The thing is, being married, you have to talk with your wife about this. And the thing is, at the time, the reason is my wife is pregnant. We're about to have our first baby. And the thing is, that got me a little bit depressed because, I thought if I couldn't become that entrepreneur when I was a single guy, like Mark Zuckerberg or Bill Gates, when they did that in high school or college, I couldn't do that as a guy who graduated. I was in corporate, at the time, and I couldn't do it after graduate school. How can I do it now? Being a father. Mm. So that's the conversation. Many people, there are a lot of people who say the birth of the child kind of put their dreams to rest. But to me, the birth of my child kind of propelled me to fulfill that dream. It's that time, it's the time that I knew I couldn't wait any longer. So 4 days before my kid was born, my wife, and I decided I should quit my job. So wow. It was the worst timing, but I just had to do it.
Okay, so what happened next? I mean, I can't believe that, especially at that time of your life. I mean, aren't you thinking about money for your family at that point?
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. We thought about everything. We thought about money. We thought about responsibility. We thought about how it would look in front of our friends, or especially my in-laws. Mm-hmm. Those are not easy things to do. But the thing is, we zoomed out. And my wife just saw me saying, we can't. You can go back to the corporate. You can get another job. Those things are good. They're fine. But you cannot live with this type of regret going forward. And I just know, 20 years later, when you're a kid, it's like, in college and you have another kids and things like that, you're going to look back and, just kick yourself. So he said, just take 6 months and build this company and do what you want to do. And if by the end, you can build this, successfully, have traction with the investment and customers, then we keep going. Otherwise, you give this a try and it didn't work. That's fine. You have no regret. So basically, she gave me a deadline to achieve my dream. And I think that's having a deadline is important. Mm-hmm. It's also liberating because it just feels like, I know what's going to happen and I need to deliver. So it's both a motivation, but also some liberation as well.
Yeah. And just kudos to your wife for allowing you to do that. I mean, I think I'm in the same boat in terms of that support that you have and having somebody close to you who really believes in what you can do. I think that's really cool. But sort of your wife took it to the next level and was like, hey, I'll let you do this. I know this is a crazy time, but you have this amount of time before we say, okay, maybe this isn't the way we're going to go. Let's go back to where we were.
Yeah. And also another thing that really helped was this guy, his name is Larry Smith, and he gave a TED Talk at the University of Washington, I believe. He talked about a lot of people use families as reasons for them not to achieve their own dreams because they have to be responsible and so on and so forth. And they often say, I sacrifice on my dreams so you, meaning their kids, can achieve their dreams. So it's like an excuse. And that's the worst thing that can happen to the kids. What they should say is, I went for it and achieved my dream. So you can go for it and achieve yours too. So I took that as my motto, and I used the birth of my son as a catapult for me to start doing something.
Okay, and then when you quit, what did you have any idea of what you were going to do, or did you start sort of researching on day one after you quit? Like, where did you go from there?
Yeah, I had this idea, and I have been doing this on the side a little bit. So I had this idea about building a mobile app. Who doesn't, right? This idea was use gamification to make sure we keep our promises. So basically, Pat, I tell you something, I'll be on your show, and then I send you something, then if I fulfill that promise, you give me a score. So it's that idea. So I've been working on this on the side. Then when I quit, I just went full time, and I hired an engineer to help me with that.
Okay, and then how did that go?
Well, it actually went well in terms of the initial feedback and also talking to people. The people who are seasoned entrepreneurs, and they like this idea. They think this thing can go somewhere if they can really execute it. Then what I found is, 6 months was really, really short. And so I made this commitment to show traction, and that comes either in lots of customers or some investment in terms of the money flowing in. So 4 months in, I had this opportunity to get an investment from an angel investor. I pitched this idea. I and my whole team. At the time we got 4 people already. We practiced the pitch. It was like Shark Tank. It was so we made that pitch, and but we thought it went really well. But in the end, we got turned down. Pretty cold. So that episode kind of revealed something that I didn't know before. I thought I was prepared for this event. I thought I was mentally tough. I was trying to encourage everyone else, but I just couldn't believe how much paralyzed I was. Was that simple rejection? I thought, wow, maybe this is a sign from God that you shouldn't do this. This, maybe you should save some time and look for a job right now. I have all these kind of stories in my mind. I just didn't want to. It made me just so fearful and paralyzed. So then that's when I thought, man, you got a problem. Do you think Bill Gates would feel this way after a simple rejection? Or if you want to be a good entrepreneur, you have to be a little bit tougher than that. That's where at the moment I felt I have to do something about not just my company, but myself.
Okay. So you put all this effort and time and money into, maybe you had money saved up for the purpose of building this application and your team. It's all leading up to the point, this culmination, this climax where you have an angel investor who you envision giving you all this money to then take it to the next level and market it and do all this stuff. And then sort of your dreams get crushed when they say, no, we're not gonna help you out.
Yeah. And the thing is, I put a lot into that. And the thing is, the rejections that really hurt are the ones that you feel there's no way you wouldn't get. Maybe there's some like maybe some delusional thinking in there. But when I believed that it's almost like a destiny for me to succeed was my entrepreneurial venture. Just because I grew up wanting it, and now it's the first time that I feel I have the freedom and guts to actually pursue it. And there's no way the world wouldn't help me. But then, it isn't. So it didn't happen. And then I just felt crushed.
Yeah. I mean, it reminds me of when I was in the world of architecture, and I had dedicated a whole chunk of my life to studying it, to being in the corporate world and thinking it was completely safe. And then all of a sudden I get this notice that I'm going to get laid off out of nowhere. I didn't have a plan B. I didn't know what the heck I was going to do. Obviously, most of the people who are listening to this know that it turned out for the better. Yeah. Talk about how this sort of turned out for you, or where you went from the moment of that initial rejection, how you kind of went, where did you go from there?
Yeah. So, I decided that I need to be stronger. I need to be like, for lack of a better word, like a bad, I just cannot this affect me this much. So I went and searched and to see what are the ways you can get stronger? What are the ways you can become a better entrepreneur and overcome this fear of rejection that you have? So
hold on. But sorry to interrupt, Jia, but I think a lot of people at that point would just give up and say, okay, this is a sign that this is not for me. I was in over my head. I'm just going to pack up the bags and go back to this world that I'm comfortable with. What made you decide to go on and be stronger and conquer this fear of rejection?
I think there is this sense of being intentional. I was very intentional in every move I made when I quit my job and being an entrepreneur. It's about the company, it's about the product, but I keep this in on my mind that it's also about me, right? It's about me. I have to fulfill that mission. I have to be better at what I was doing. And I knew staying all these years in corporate made me almost timid to a point. You don't want to stand out. You don't want to take risks. Otherwise, you might lose your job. And if you make a mistake, there's the team that's out there that's taking this. There's politics and all that. But being entrepreneur had none of that. A win or a lose is on you. There's no excuse. So I was very intentional, and once I get this rejection, I thought, I can feel that if I lose my hope, if I became deflated, if I tell my team, at that moment, the team, basically we had a major loss, and the team can sense each other's spirit. And if they feel that their leader is weak and their leader is about to give up, that's when the things fall apart. So, and I couldn't fall apart. And that's why I thought, how can I not fall apart? What kind of help can I get?
Do you think that's a quality of your own that you were sort of born with, since you said you've always wanted to do this as you're a kid? Or is this something that people can learn? Because I think a lot of people can hear what you're saying and maybe relate to it, but maybe they feel like, oh, well, that's not me. I'm not the person who always felt like I could achieve anything or is always intentional. Some people are more reactive than proactive. You seem more proactive. Can somebody who is reactive become proactive?
That's a great question, and I absolutely think you can learn this.
Mm-hmm.
One of the biggest myths is like you're born this way, right?
Right.
I think we're born in certain ways. Our personality, maybe our intelligence to a point, especially the way we look. But the thing is, the way we all go through lives meeting all kind of problems and adversities, and we have no control over that. Sometimes things just happen. But we have control on how to react to it, and something that we can just make a decision. We can learn to do it, but it's not easy. You have to really put a lot of thoughts into this. You have to make a conscious decision saying, hey, I have to take control of what I can control, instead of worrying about the things that I cannot control. Mm-hmm. So I do think it's something people can learn.
Nice. Great answer. Okay. Now I'll stop interrupting you and why don't you keep going from there? So keep going.
Yeah. So basically I started searching ways so I can overcome my fear of rejection. So I came across this game called Rejection Therapy. I'm sure some of your listeners know what it is. It's basically a card game that asks you to get rejected every day. So instead of running away from rejection, you actually go out and look for it. That way, if you do it enough, it desensitizes you from the pain of rejection. And I thought it's a brilliant idea. And not only that, it's fun. But one thing is, I want to do my own rejection therapy. I don't want to use a card game. I want to start a blog. I want to do this for 100 days. I want to share my experience with the world. Because by doing that, and I've learned this over and over again, if you make something public, like how when I quit my job, I told the whole world about it, basically, and as many people as possible, because I want to give myself pressure. I want to tell them that I can't silently back out of this. Otherwise, people will be laughing at me. The same thing with 100 Days of Rejection is I want to tell the world that I'm doing this. And if I don't finish this, you can hold me accountable. And because I know you'll be hard. So I started this blog, 100 Days of Rejection. You can find that at fearbuster.com. It's basically me trying to think about ways, funny and ways I can be rejected every day. And I love to put humorous spin on things. Like for example, the first day I went to a stranger and asked for $100 from a stranger. It's a security guard. It was really scary. And I look at my videos on YouTube. I filmed it. And I look like I saw dead people, So
you were going out there and looking for ways to get rejected.
Yes. And I filmed it with the iPhone. I filmed myself to do it. And yeah, it was really scary. Even though I knew that things probably not going to happen. He's probably not going to, beat me up or get extremely upset. I was really, really scared for asking such a thing. So the thing is, so I went back and I went and started analyzing my own video. I found out that, there are things I could do that can maybe make a difference. I mean, by the way, the person said no, like a really quick no. I just ran afterward.
You ran?
I ran. Yeah, I literally ran. I mean, he said no, but he asked me like, why would you ask for such thing? I didn't even hear him finish the sentence. I just got out of there. I was so scared. And I feel that a lot of people are like me on that first rejection attempt. We are. Rejection is really a painful thing. It turned out to be like a biological thing that comes from some sort of evolutionary traits in the past. But that's so deeply embedded in our brain that we hate hearing no. And when we do, when we hear no, our brain react as if we're like slapped physically. There's that pain killing, thing that our brain release, to relieve the pain. So I run away from that. And then the second day, I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm going to try something a little bit different. I'm going to sustain the conversation after a no. I'm going to just ask why and why would he said no and have some fun. So the next day I went and I asked, went to Five Guys Burger. That's right. I asked them to give me a burger refill. You got drink refill. I'm like, why not get a burger refill? So I asked for that. And the guy said no, and I asked why, and he was like, "Well, that's the way it is. We don't do it." So we both had a laugh, and I left. And I found out, wow, just by not running away, I felt so much better. It's like in a battlefield, right? I wasn't routed by the enemy. If I lose the battle or if I get a no, if I can just stay there and just chat a little bit, that decreased the pain level by so much. And I wasn't afraid anymore just after one day. The fear was not all gone, but I made huge improvement just by doing that. So for the next 100 days, I kind of did that gradually, day by day. I learned something new, and I learned so much every day by these experiments. About negotiation, about charisma, about communication. So that's why I wrote a book about it now.
That's so cool. What is the name of your book?
The book is called Rejection Proof, How I Beat Fear and Became Invincible Through 100 Days of Rejection.
That's awesome.
It just came out, so you can find that on Amazon.com.
Nice. So we'll have links to it in the show notes as well. It's really interesting because I just listened to a podcast the other day it's a brand new podcast, at least the time that we're recording this, called Invisibilia. And in their second episode, they have a whole episode dedicated to fear and the psychology of it and that stuff. And they mentioned this rejection therapy game. It's by a guy named Jason Comley.
Jason Comley, yeah. He's a friend of mine now.
Oh, really? No way.
Story since I did this blog, my blog went viral. I could go into that story, how that became so popular. Ever since that, and Comley has, and I have been connecting. We've been chatting with each other, giving each other ideas. He's a real gentleman.
That's really awesome. Yeah, and there's a few cool things about this article or this podcast episode that I was even thinking of you when I was listening to this, and I was kind of baffled that they didn't mention you in this episode, unfortunately. But there's a part in this article related to this podcast episode I heard that says, and I quote, "Most fears aren't real in the way you think they are. They're just a story you tell yourself, and you can choose to stop repeating it. You can choose to stop listening." And something I always tell myself, Jia, is when I ever get that fear and that resistance that comes into play whenever we try something new or different, which is obviously those situations that you're putting yourself into every day during this 100 days, is I ask myself, okay, what's the worst that can happen? And when I truly, realistically think about the worst thing that can happen, it's never bad at all. It's not what I initially think of. And my brain, and just like everybody else's brain, we go to the extreme in terms of the worst thing that could ever happen. And it's just it's just like a human nature, our security mechanisms and, a lot of these innate things that go on in our minds that we don't necessarily need anymore with the world we live in. Maybe if we lived in caveman days, we would respond to every single fear like we should to stay safe and survive. But today, a lot of the fears that are entered into our brain because of the world we live in aren't necessarily ones that we should listen to. And man, I just love this idea. And just thinking about you doing this and putting yourself out there scares me. I feel scared, and I'm trying to imagine you, like me being you and putting yourself out there. Like my heart would beat, and and people have heard me say this on the podcast before, when I get into situations where I'm with people who I've never met before and I have to introduce myself, or maybe you might be in a group setting where everybody one by one kind of talking about who they are and what they do. I mean, my heart is pumping, and every person that's getting closer and closer before it's my turn, like I am sweating bullets, my palms are sweating, like that fear just comes in, and I'm like, why am I so worried? It's just how we are as humans, and I think it's really smart that in sort of the same way when you fear something, you just do it, right? Like if you're scared of spiders, you just put yourself in a container full of spiders, and then you'd eventually see that, you know, you have nothing to be afraid of. Although I would never do that because you would die 1,000 deaths in a container of spiders, apparently. This is what I think. And anyway, sorry, I'm just rambling on here, but I think this is really cool. And one of the commenters on this podcast episode says it is dangerous to always be on the safe side.
Oh yeah, it's extremely dangerous, and because it kind of talked about, you talked about what's the worst thing that can happen, right? Mm-hmm. I thought about that myself, and I thought, what's the worst thing that can happen is where I am right now. I'm telling myself these stories about how dangerous it is to ask these questions, how the other person will reject me, will dislike me, will make comments about me. And that story will stop me from making that request. And that's the worst thing can happen.
Yeah.
So the worst thing happen is me not asking, not like the other person says no to me. Once I get that, I'm like, now I know what I now know. I used to think, rejection is so negative, right? It's so painful. That's why you avoid it. That's somehow by avoiding a negative turns into positive. That's actually not the case. The worst thing is you're already rejecting yourself, and the world is ignoring you. That's the worst thing. It felt safe, but over the long term, that's the worst thing you can do to yourself.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I couldn't have said it better myself. So, man, thank you for that. Now, in your quest, in your 100 days of rejection, was there anybody that said yes to what you asked for?
Oh yeah, there were a lot. Actually, as I became better and better at asking, and I found out there are key things you can do so people can respond to you positively. Mainly you want to have your body posture right. You want to have eye contact. But the thing is, a lot of depend on how the energy you give out, right? But one episode that really changed this whole thing was really episode 3. Where I went to, I used to live in Austin at the time. I went to a Krispy Kreme, the donut shop, and I asked them to make me donuts that look like Olympic rings. If you can link 5 donuts together and make them look like that Olympic rings. It was the year of the London Olympics. Mm-hmm. And so I went in, and this shift leader, she took my order, and I was just trying to get rejected, right? There's no way they could do that. And she took me so seriously, and she was like jotting down notes and thinking over and how she could do this, how she could use her machine to make it happen, not fall apart. And then 15 minutes later, she came out with a box of donuts that looked like Olympic rings.
Wow. She actually did it.
She did it, and she gave it to me for free. Ask how. At that moment, I was so floored because my rejection attempt rejected. And I said, you know what? However you want, I will pay you however much you want. And she's like, no, that's on me. And I was like, are you serious? She was like, sure, it's on me. And she didn't know I was filming all this. And I came out of that shop. My view of humanity changed, because I used to think, I need to get used to rejection. This is a tough world out there. You need to just keep toughening yourself up. But now I'm like, wow, there are possibilities that people can say yes to you if you ask the right way, or if you're just nice. You can give people a chance to say yes. And there are people out there like that person. Her name is Jackie Brown. And Jackie, she later told me she was really looking for a challenge. She loves to fulfill requests and orders from customers, because that's what she wants to do. She wants to see the smile on customers' faces. So now it gave me, I felt the world is so dynamic than I originally thought. Sometimes I just need to go out and ask and see what happens.
Yeah, that's so awesome. And I'll link to that video at Krispy Kreme on the show notes as well. I've seen that before, and I remember when I was watching that, I was actually tearing up because I couldn't believe that this person went so far and beyond to fulfill your request. It was just so cool. I also remember in your video you were like playing soccer in somebody's backyard. Is that something you asked somebody to do?
Yeah. So later on, I went to a stranger's house and I said, "Hey, can I play soccer in your backyard?" And the guy said, "Sure, come on in." And I couldn't believe it. And he just sized me up and he saw me with a soccer ball with cleats and shin guards and all decked out. He was like, "Yeah, come on in." And so I don't know who was more confused at that moment. So I was, later on, I went in and played a little bit and had him take a picture of me. So when I left, I just asked him, why do you say yes to me? I did not expect that. He was like, "Oh, your request is so off the wall. How can I say no?" It just showed that people are incentivized or motivated by different, emotional factors. It's not black and white. When we tell that story, when I told that story in my head before I went in the house, I'm like, I hope he doesn't have a gun. I hope I'm safe after saying this. But it just turned out the guy was nice and he was just intrigued.
Yeah, obviously you want to, if you're going to do something like this, you want to be safe and use common sense and stuff like that, because there are dangerous people out there and things like that. But I think I think it's really good to practice this. And this is something that I can't remember the episode number off the top of my head, but Noah Kagan came on the show. He's over at AppSumo and SumoMe.
Yeah.
He challenged all the listeners when he was on the show to go to Starbucks and ask for a discount.
Yep.
Just a very simple thing. And a lot of people actually did that and said it felt amazing. And a lot of them got rejected, but some of the Starbucks said yes too. And so I'm curious, do you have something for the listeners, perhaps a challenge that they can do, something easy, but also somewhat challenging that we can all do? I'm going to do it myself, so we can all do this together and practice rejection. I think this is something that is really, really important. And I even remember reading something similar in Tim Ferriss's book, The 4-Hour Workweek, before I got laid off, right after I got laid off, about going to, and this was an exercise. He said, go to a mall, public area, and just lay on the ground on your back and just do like snow angels on the ground and just do that. And people are going to look at you. They're going to stare at you. I mean, the purpose of that exercise was just to know that, to not have a care with what other people think who don't really matter in what you're trying to attempt. It's just kind of an exercise to, get over those feelings that are going to stop you from succeeding. I think this is the exact same thing. So do you have anything in your head that you could share with us? One challenge that we could all do to get rejected together? And maybe everybody in the comment section of this post can talk about their experience doing that. So I didn't ask Jia to talk about this. This is just off the top of my head right now. So I'm kind of curious. What do you have anything for us? Maybe one of the things that you've done in the past or something new?
Can I do two, or has to be one?
You could do two. You could do two, and everybody out there listening can do one or the other or both.
Okay, the first one is if you go to a store and go talk to a store manager and ask to speak over the store's intercom.
Are you serious?
Yes.
Okay.
I tried that and it was.
And did you get rejected?
No. Yes, I did. I did get rejected. And I was at Costco and the person wouldn't let me do it. But the person was saying, I did my best. I actually showed I'm a member. I spent thousands of dollars here. Who doesn't at Costco, right? But the guy was, you know what? Can I buy you a dinner?
Wow, really?
So yeah, he bought me like hot dogs and pizza. So I didn't get to speak, but I left with a full stomach. Maybe I shouldn't tell you this because because now you all expect.
Yeah, people are gonna be like, "Hey, Costco, I heard that you can get a free meal by asking to." No.
Yeah.
So okay, and obviously you don't want to be forceful and be like, just this is a test to see what they say.
Yeah.
And I think if somebody were to say yes to me in that situation, I'd say something nice and positive over the microphone. So
yeah.
Okay, and then what's challenge number 2?
Challenge number 2 is go to Starbucks. Noah's challenge is good. Now, when you are in line with before the person in front of you about to buy his coffee and say, "Hey, can I buy your coffee?"
That's good. I've done that. I do that actually every once in a while.
You do? Okay.
I love that one. So I've already done one of the challenges, but I'll do that again because it's just one of the best feelings. And one time I did that I overheard a man and his son, probably maybe 7 or 8 years old, just talking about how they were having a bad day. They needed to get this coffee really quick and just go to the next thing that they had to do. Apparently something happened. I don't know what, but right when I was purchasing, I said, "Oh, I'm going to buy the coffee for these guys too." And they were like, "What? Like, no." Like they kept denying it. I was like, "No, I insist. This, I'm just trying to do something nice for somebody every day, which is something I do try to do myself every day." And they were floored. And we sat down and had coffee. They stopped rushing and they just told me the whole story about what happened. And apparently the son had broken an iPad that they had just bought and they had this whole ordeal. The mother was upset. They were just very angry. And apparently through my asking to buy their coffee for them, and obviously the kid, I bought him a hot chocolate, everybody was happy. And they're like, "Wow, we were having a terrible day until you asked us to if we could buy coffee for us. Thank you." And it was one of the coolest things ever.
Absolutely. And in my case, I did that. The guy in front of me was so happy, and because it's unexpected kindness, right? And the Starbucks baristas, they were like, "What? You know what? The coffee is for you. It's on us. It's on the house." So they give me free. Yeah. So when you do that, almost like everyone sees that, it makes their day. Again, I can't promise you, listener, that this would happen. There could be someone who's like, "Why would you buy coffee for me?"
Yeah, I mean, that's happened to me before too.
Yeah.
Like, what do you think, I can't afford it or something like that?
I know.
When that happens, which does, and it doesn't, it could be related to anything, even business-wise, whatever. If something like that happens when you are genuinely trying to be nice and they don't respond in a way that, is ideal, then that's not your fault. And that's there's two people involved. Sometimes the other one isn't always on the same wavelength.
Yeah, and this is the one key takeaway from my learning journey, my 100 days of rejection learning is we always think rejection and acceptance is about us, right? Is our offer good enough? Are we smart enough? Are we good looking enough? We always tell that story is about me. Actually, it's really about that person. You can make the same request to 100 different people. You get, maybe like 60 rejections and 40 yeses. It's about that person. It's about his education, his prejudice, his mood, his experience. It's everything about him on that day made him make that decision. Mm-hmm. It really has a lot of that have nothing to do with you. But we kept thinking that that rejection represent how the universe would treat us. That's why we were so afraid of it. If you try this out, if you experimented with it, if you tried it over a period of time, you would find so many fascinating things about humans and also just human interaction.
Yeah. Oh man, Jia, thank you for coming on the show and sharing that with us. And your story is incredible. I recommend everybody go get the book, check it out. Again, it's called Rejection Proof, and you can find it over at fearbuster.com or on Amazon, of course. And I think you have a special link for us, right?
Yeah, it's at Fearbuster. Fearbuster is my own website, fearbuster.com/Pat. It's just for you Patfluent listeners, whether you're on in Ask Pat or you're on Passive Income podcast, you can go there and find something special for you.
Cool, perfect. Thank you so much for this. I think this is a great, unique show that is necessary at this time of the year. We've been working hard for 4 months. And, just so happens to be tax day today in the U.S. at least. And so, maybe we're down for whatever reason. But I think this is going to be a big pick-me-up for people. And I think these exercises, if you choose to participate, which I hope you do, one or the other or both, share that experience on this particular blog post on the site. This is episode 157. So if you go to smartpassiveincome.com/157, session 157, you'll get all the show notes and stuff and the links and the link to Jia's book, but also you'll be able to discuss and share your experience with these fun little adventures of rejection. And who knows, you might be surprised about what happens, like the commenters said in the other post where we had people test themselves as well. So this is really cool. Jia, thank you so much for spending time with us today and sharing your story. And I think this is definitely going to help out a lot of people. So thank you.
Thank you, Pat.
All right. I hope you enjoyed that interview with Jia Jiang. Once again, you can find them at fearbuster.com/Pat. Again, that's fearbuster.com/Pat. And in the comment section over at smartpassiveincome.com/session157, I'd love to hear what you think of this episode, obviously, but also if you do the challenge, and you'll hear right after this a fun little audio file of me actually doing one of these challenges. So stay tuned for that. I also want to thank Ryan Moran of Freedom Fastlane. Freedom Fastlane is a podcast that I listen to. It's great. It's one of the only ones I listen to, actually. And it's cool because he talks about a freedom-based business and how to create a freedom-based business. But not only that, how to turn those profits into passive income as well. So taking things to the next level. You can check out his podcast at freedomfastlane.com/Pat. If you've never heard of him before, you can actually go back to episode 144 of the SPI podcast, where he blew people's minds because he was teaching us all how to build $1 million business, e-commerce and Amazon and that sort of thing in less than 12 months. And he breaks it down to a step-by-step process and really lays it all out on the line for us. So again, you can check out Ryan's podcast at freedomfastlane.com/Pat, or you can look up Freedom Fastlane on iTunes. I'm sure you won't be disappointed. So again, check it out. Thank you all so much for listening in today. I really appreciate it. And for the reviews and the comments on the posts and the ratings, it means so much to me. Thank you all. I appreciate you. And we'll see you next week when we talk with Brian Castle about how to productize your service-based business. I know a lot of you have a service-based business where you are in the business, and if it wasn't for you, the business would stop. Well, in that episode, we're going to talk about how to automate that and monetize and productize your service-based business. It's going to be great. Again, thank you so much. And show notes are available at smartpassiveincome.com/session157. See you on the blog. Thanks so much. And here's that final audio of me at Starbucks.
All right, let's do this. Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, thank you. Could I get a grande Americano, please? Please.
Did I get you any paninis for lunch?
No thanks, no paninis. Excuse me, do you mind if I buy you your drink? I'm trying to do something nice and random for random strangers, so is that okay?
Yeah.
Cool. So whatever she like.
Passion shake and ice cream lemonade. You got it, what size? Venti, I guess. Sweet. Yes, you got it.
I'm Pat, by the way.
Alexis, thank you so much.
Yeah, no worries. Nice to meet
I've
you.
never had anybody do that, ever.
So,
Give back. Do it. Yep.
yeah, you know what I mean? Pass forward, so.
Awesome.
Cool. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you. Help yourself to a sample.
Thanks for listening to the Smart Passive Income Podcast at www.smartpassiveincome.com.
Look, I get it. You want to grow your business, but trying to sell to hundreds or even thousands of people gets very exhausting very fast. But what if you could sell at scale with a simple, powerful quiz? Score App helps you sell to more people without adding more to your plate. You build a quiz or assessment that your audience actually wants to take. Then they answer a few quick questions and get a personalized result right away. It shows them where they're at and what they need to do next and how you can help. And you build huge amounts of trust before you make even a single offer. No hard sell, no chasing leads, just value at scale. Get 50% off the first 3 months using the discount code SPI. All you have to do is just head to scoreapp.com/SPI. Again, that's scoreapp.com/SPI. Have you dreamt about being your own boss, but still haven't made the first steps to making that dream a reality? Well, I get that. Starting a business can feel super overwhelming with legal forms, paperwork, finances. It's a lot. And that's why I'm excited to tell you about Taylor Brands. Taylor is a complete business builder designed to make launching your business simple and stress-free. You can register your LLC in just minutes, keeping your personal assets and the business assets separate from day one. From there, you get access to everything you need to get off the ground. Legal documents, licenses and permits, invoicing and bookkeeping tools, and even a 100-day business coaching program, all designed to help you hit the ground running. You'll also get a free, personalized business plan, branding tools, and so much more. And of course, listeners of this show get an exclusive 35% discount to get started. All you have to do is head to taylorbrands.com/SPI. That's TAILORBRANDS.com/SPI. Stop dreaming, start building with Taylor Brands.